Welcome to the Unit 2 video of Industrial Management. This video is according to the syllabus of IP University. Let's see the syllabus first. But before that, do like the video if it helps you. Unit 2. Trade Unionism Definition, Origin, Objectives of Trade Unions. Methods of Trade Unions. Size and finance of Indian trade unions. Size, frequency, distribution, factors responsible for the small size. Finance, sources of income, ways of improving finance. Trade Unionism Definition, Origin, Objectives of Trade Unions. Methods of Trade Unions. Trade unions are voluntary organizations of employees or employers formed to promote and protect their interests through collective action. Though the terms employees and employers are used, when we say trade unions, they generally refer to employees. Employee associations constitute one of the stakeholders in industrial relations. These associations are popularly known as trade unions. Trade unions are not confined to mere sticking and negotiating on behalf of workers. Their role is much wider. Question: how can a trade union be made effective for securing good human relations in industry? Explain. Answer: trade unions may make their presence felt in recruitment and selection. They may also decide who is to be hired and under what conditions. Unions can also play an important role in deciding who is to be promoted, given a new job assignment, sent for training, terminated, or laid off. Unions decide wage and salary structure and negotiate revisions once in 3 or 5 years. Major unions have political affiliations too. The effectiveness of any industrial relations system depends to a great extent on the attitude that unions and employers' organizations adopt towards each other. The intention in covering employers' organizations under the Trade Unions Act, 1926 was to place both workers' and employers' organizations on par in matters of rights and responsibilities. The principle of giving equal representation to capital and labor on all consultative bodies like the Indian Labour Conference, Standing Labour Committee and Industrial Committees recognizes this basic tenet in employer-employee relationship. Trade unions should be strengthened democratically so that they can understand and tow with the mainstream of the national industrial activities. Trade union by their effective working may achieve employee satisfaction. Therefore, trade unions help in reducing the rate of absenteeism, labor turnover, and developing systematic grievance settlement procedures leading to 46 harmonious industrial relations. Trade unions can thus contribute to the improvements in level of production, productivity, and discipline, thereby improving quality of work life. Question: what is the concept of industrial democracy? Answer: it means the application of democratic principle in managing industrial units. In industrial democracy, workers are treated as responsible partners of the enterprise and are allowed to participate in the decision-making process through different methods. Workers are given the right of self-expression and an opportunity to communicate their views on framing the policies of the company. Industrial democracy brings effective communication between workers and management, and thereby joint decisions acceptable to both parties are possible. It gives higher status to worker and makes them more responsible in their outlook and behavior. Workers feel committed to the decision taken by them jointly with the management. This develops the spirit of tolerance and cooperation. Question: state any two differences between a registered and an unregistered trade union. Answer: registered trade union. 1. A registered trade union has several advantages. 2. It is a juristic person. 3. It can sue or can be sued on its own name. 4. It has perpetual succession. 5. It can be affiliated to any national or international union federation. 6. It can acquire properties on its own name. 7. It can contract on its own name. 8. The employers come forward for discussions and collective bargaining with executives of a registered trade union. 9. Proper accounting, auditing and submission of returns within the prescribed time, etc., are compulsory to the registered trade union. 10. Immunities from the criminal liabilities and civil liabilities under Sections 17 and 18 are provided only to the registered trade unions. 11. The general fund and the civic and political fund can be maintained by a registered trade union only. Unregistered trade union. An unregistered trade union has no advantages. 2. It is not a juristic person. It is only an association of persons. 3. It cannot sue or be sued on its own name. 4. It has no perpetual succession. 5. It cannot be affiliated to any national or international union federation. 6. It cannot acquire properties on its own name. 7. It cannot contract on its own name. 8. The employers do not come forward for discussions and collective bargaining with the executives of an unregistered trade union, as it has no legal status. 9. Proper accounting, auditing and submission of returns within the prescribed time, etc., are not necessary to an unregistered trade union. 10. Immunities from the criminal liabilities and civil liabilities under Sections 17 and 18 cannot be provided only to the unregistered trade unions. 11. The general fund and the civic and political fund cannot be maintained by an unregistered trade union. Question: explain in detail the process of formation of a trade union. Discuss its pros and cons. Answer: a trade union is a combination of persons, whether temporary or permanent, primarily for the purpose of regulating the relations between workers and employers or between workers for imposing restrictive conditions on the conduct of any trade or business, and includes the federations of two or more trade unions. Some of the criteria are: 1. Craft basis, 2. Industrial union, 3. General grouping based on place, and 4. Federations. 1. Craft unions. In this organization, the labor class is grouped based on particular trade or occupation. This category is mainly amongst the white-collared employees. The measures are mostly in horizontal system and craft conscious rather than class conscious. This will have lot of commonalities in thinking and approach to problems resolution. The bank employees union, doctors union, lawyers association, teachers association came under this category. 2. Industrial unions. A particular category of industry will have their own unions. All crafts and trades coming under that industry are part of the union. They form a strong force in collective bargaining. They cover all welfare of similar industry workers in a city or industrial town. Industrial unions are more vocal, volatile, and indulge in agitation and strikes. 3. General union. This is a conglomerate group of different industry employees forming a union. This happens normally in industrial towns, ancillary units. Examples are Industrial Workers Union, Thane Industry Employees Unions, and Jamshedpur Labor Union. 4. Federations. These are apex bodies at national level. All trade unions like craft union, industrial unions, and general union become members of federations to have bigger identity. Central trade unions as federations help smaller unions and support at national level to address their cause. Shortcomings of trade unions. Trade union movement from the following weaknesses. 1. Uneven growth. Trade unions are concentrated in large-scale industry sector and in big industrial centers. There is very little trade union activity in small sector, agricultural labor, and domestic sector. Trade unionism has touched only a portion of the working class in India. 2. Small size. Most of the unions have low membership, though the number of unions and union membership are increasing. Average membership is inadequate. 3. Weak financial position. The average yearly income of unions is very low and inadequate. The subscription rates are low and many members do not pay the subscription in time. Due to their financial weakness, most of the unions are not in a position to undertake welfare programs for workers. 4. Political leadership. Trade unions are under the leadership and control of political parties and outsiders. Politicians exploit unions and workers for their personal and political gains. Thus, the political leadership is very harmful to the trade union movement in India. 5. Multiplicity of unions. there exist several unions in the same establishment or industry. The existence of rival union with conflicting ideology is greatly responsible for unhealthy growth of trade union movement. In some cases, employers encourage split in unions to undermine their bargaining power. 6. Problem of recognition. Employers are under no obligation to give recognition to any union. 7. Absence of paid office bearers. Most of the unions do not have full-time paid office bearers. Union activities working in honorary basis devote only limited time and energy to union activities. Union officers lack adequate knowledge and skill due to lack of proper training. Weak financial PD position and political leadership are the main reasons for this state of affairs. 8. Apathy of members. Majority of workers do not take keen interest in union activities. The attendance at the general meetings of unions is very poor. 9. Opposition from employers. Trade unions in India have to face opposition from employers. Many employers try to intimidate or victimize labor leaders, start rival union and bribe union officials. Question: what are the activities and weakness of trade unions in India? Answer: the following are some of the activities of the trade unions in India. To safeguard workers against all sorts of exploitation by the employers, by union leaders and by political parties. To protect workers from the atrocities and unfair practices of the management. To ensure healthy, safe, and conducive working conditions, and adequate conditions of work. To exert pressure for of rewards associated with the work only after making a realistic assessment of its practical implications. To ensure a desirable standard to living by providing various types of social service, health, housing, educational, recreational, cooperative, etc., and by widening and consolidating the social security measures. The following are some of the most important weaknesses of the trade unions in India. Multiplicity of trade unions and inter-union rivalry. Small size of unions. Financial weakness. Leadership issues. Politicization of the unions. Problems of recognition of trade union. Question: discuss in detail the employer's liability to pay compensation to the workers under Employees' Compensation Act. Answer: the Workmen's Compensation Act, 1923. It is the earliest social security legislation in India enacted with the purpose of making the employer liable to pay compensation to employees who are affected by personal injury arising out of accidents. Compensation is payable for partial disablement. The Act is applicable to all the workers irrespective of their salaries, status, whether employed directly or through a contractor. When the monthly wage is more than 4,000 rupees, it will be deemed as 4,000 rupees for the purpose of calculation of the compensation. The employer is liable to pay the compensation to the person or the dependents in case of death, personal injury resulting into total or partial disablement, or occupational disease caused to a workman out of and in the course of employment. To be eligible for compensation, the necessary and sufficient condition is that the injury must have arisen out of employment and happened during the course of employment. It also includes the time period of coming and returning from office. But the employer is not liable if the injury does not last for more than 3 days. Employer is also not liable for any injury not resulting in death or permanent disablement, caused by accident which is attributable to the worker, such as acting under the influence of drugs or alcohol, willful disobedience of rules or order, or removal of safety devices provided for the purpose. No compensation is paid directly to the employee or his dependents. The whole amount is to be deposited with the Workmen's Compensation Commissioner, who will disperse it to the person or distribute it among the dependents. Question: define workers' participation in management and its significance in the context of Indian economy. Answer: workers' participation in management. The word participation means sharing the decision-making power with the lower ranks of the organization in an appropriate manner. Participation has a unique motivational power and a great psychological value. It promotes harmony and peace between workers and management. When workers participate in organizational decisions, they can see the big picture clearly, i.e., how their actions would contribute to overall growth of the company. They can offer feedback immediately based on their experiences and improve the quality of decisions significantly. Since they are involved in the decisions from the beginning, they tend to view the decisions as their own and try to translate the rhetoric into concrete action plans with zeal and enthusiasm. Participation makes them more responsible. They are willing to take initiative and contribute cost-saving suggestions and growth-oriented ideas. The feeling of being treated as equals forces them to repose their confidence in management and accept plans of rationalization, expansion, etc., without raising serious objections. Since they are treated with respect now, they begin to view the job and the organization as their own and commit themselves to organizational activities wholeheartedly. Output cannot be increased unless there is effective cooperation between labor and management at all levels. The way of ensuring this is to satisfy their social and psychological need besides economic ones. Workers' participation in management is one of the most significant modes of resolving industrial conflicts and encouraging among workers a sense of belongingness in establishment where they work. Participation may take two forms. It may be 1. Ascending participation, and 2. Descending participation. In case of ascending participation, the workers may be given an opportunity to influence managerial decisions at higher levels through their elected representatives to joint councils or the board of directors of the company. But in descending participation, they may be given more powers to plan and to make decisions about their own work, example, delegation and job enlargement. This form of participation is quite popular in many organizations. In independent India, several schemes have been developed and implemented by the Government of India to promote workers' participation in management. Size and finance of Indian trade unions. Size, frequency, distribution, factors responsible for the small size. Question: what are the weaknesses of trade union movement in India? Give suggestions for making the trade union movement strong and successful. Answer: weaknesses of trade union movement in India. 1. Outside leadership. In India, trade unions has been dominated by outside leadership. It is a notable feature of trade union in India. Nowadays these leaders are professional political leaders. Hence, they exploit the sentiments of people for their political purpose. They are not generally interested to solve the problems of workers but exploit them for their political benefits. Most of the negotiations with the employers fail due to such political leadership. The interests and welfare of laborers are generally ignored. Therefore, outside leadership is major weakness of trade unions in India. 2. Low membership. Though the number of trade unions in India has considerably increased but membership per union has declined. With the help of these data, it can be proved that in 1927 to 28 the average number of members per union was near about 3,500, it was reduced to about 1,400 in 1946 to 47 and further it decreased to 675 in 1985. The union having low membership would not be more effective. 3. Uneven growth of trade unions. The degrees of unionization vary from industry to industry. In coal industry it is 6.1%, cotton textile 56%, tobacco manufacturing 70%, electricity and gas it is 39%, hence, it can be said that in India trade unison activities are concentrated in large-scale industries but in small-scale industries it is nominal. 4. Multiplicity of trade unions. It is also a major problem of trade union in India. It has been generally seen that there are many trade unions in the same industry. There are sometimes as many as 20 unions in the same plant. As the Trade Union Act, 1926 permits that any association of 7 workers can be registered as unions. Multiple trade unions rather than solving the problems of workers are fighting among themselves. Thus, the purpose of these trade unions fails. 5. Absence of paid office bearers. In India, majority of trade unions do not have whole-time paid office bearers. Many of them work on honorary basis. Since they are not paid, they devote only limited time and energy to trade union activities. In the absence of full-time workers, generally political leader dominates unions. Moreover, the office bearers are not trained properly. 6. Weak financial position. In India, most of the trade unions' financial positions is very weak because their average yearly income is inadequate, as subscription rates are very low. The reason for weak financial position is also multiplicity of unions. The leaders of different unions try to attract workers towards their unions comparatively at low rate of subscription. It is the wrong notion that the Indian workers financially are not too good. Over the years the average income of workers has been on increase, hence, it is wrong plea that they cannot afford higher rate of subscription. 7. Lack of interest. In India a large number of workers have not joined trade union. About 2/3 of the workers have no link with any union. All the members of the trade union do not show interest in their affairs. Their attendance at the general meeting of the union is very low. Under such circumstances trade union cannot be expected to make such progress. 8. Lack of public support. As most of the trade union believes in the pressure tactics such as strike and demonstration and give limited attention to peaceful methods for the settlement of demands and disputes. The general public is affected due to strike, go-slow policy and other practices of unions. As a result, public support or sympathy is not available to the unions. 9. Limited stress on welfare. Most of the trade unions in India undertake only limited welfare activities. They feel that their major activity is to fight with the employer for more wages and allowances. Corrective measures to improve the trade unions. 1. There should be a strong base to develop the trade union by safeguarding the interest of the members and by achieving the target of production. 2. To make effective unionism there should be one union in one industry. 3. As most of the unions are influenced by political parties. Hence, their interference should be eliminated. 4. There should be training programs to develop the internal leadership. It will be more effective if office bearers of the trade unions are well paid. 5. As most of the trade unions in India are financially weak. This problem can be solved by raising the membership and collecting more funds for unions. 6. Most of the unions are engaged in industrial disputes. They do not undertake economic, social and cultural activities which are equally important for raising welfare of the working class. As a considerable number of trade unions are not recognized. Hence, the proper recognition of unions will make them more effective. Question. Give a historical perspective on origin and growth of trade unionism in India. Why do workers join trade unions? Explain. Answer. The growth of trade unions in India has passed through a few distinctive phases, paralleling the political and economic development in the country. The pre-independence phase. The earliest known trade unions in India were the Bombay Mill Hands Association, formed in 1890. The trade union movement began in India after the end of the First World War. All India Trade Union Congress was formed in 1920 on a national basis. The Central Labour Board, Bombay, and the Bengal Trades Union Federation were formed in 1922. The Indian government passed the Trade Unions Act in 1926, which legalized the registered trade unions in India. The All India Trade Union Congress, ATUC, in the oldest trade union in India. The first post-independence phase. The first decade, 1950, mid-1960s, corresponds to an era of state planning and import substitution, when public sector employment and public sector unionism rose phenomenally. The nationalist Indian National Trade Union Congress, INTUC, and the Communist All India Trade Union Congress, ATUC. State intervention in the determination of wages and working conditions was the norm. The second post-independence phase, mid-1960s, 1980. The 1960s to the 1980s represented the second post-independence growth phase of trade unions, characterized by a period of economic stagnation and political turmoil. The emergence of many more unions. Inter-union rivalry. Pressure on centralized bargaining. The railway strike of 1974 and severe curbs during emergency. The third post-independence phase, 1980 pre-liberalization era. Period of segmented and uneven economic growth, decentralized bargaining and independent trade unionism. Bangalore PSU strike and Mumbai textile workers strike, interstate and interregional variations in labor management relations. The fourth post-independence phase, post-liberalization era. Stabilization and structural adjustments. Demands for labor market flexibility. Recruitment freezes in public sector. Right sizing of manpower through VRS. Workers join trade unions as the trade unions ensure security of workers by ensuring continued employment of workers, preventing retrenchment, layoffs or lockouts. Need for trade union workers join trade unions to achieve certain objectives that they may not be able to achieve in their personal capacity. Trade unions are necessary to ensure job security and right pay for the members. One of the basic needs of any employee is security of service. The main reason why an employee joins a union is to get him secured. Apart from job security, and employees need to get pay commensurate with their qualifications and skills. Trade unions strive to get both job security and correct pay for all employees. To ventilate the grievances of employees to the management, when the employees in general, or some in particular, have any grievance, they may not be able to convey the same to the management in their personal capacity. Such grievances may be brought to the knowledge of the management through the trade union. The members of the management may be indifferent to the demands of the individual employees, but they cannot be so when it comes to union demands. Finance sources of income, ways of improving finance. Question. Write an essay in detail on industrial unrest in India, citing suitable examples. Answer. Industrial conflict is a struggle between two organized groups which are motivated by the belief that their respective interests are endangered by the self-interested behavior of the other. Industrial relations may be harmonious or strained and acrimonious. Causes of industrial unrest in India can be classified mainly under four heads. They are: 1. Financial aspects. Demand for increase of wages, salaries, and other perks. Workers' demand goes on increasing with the increase in cost of living. B. Demand for more perks and fringe benefits. Issue of bonus also has become a contentious one, even though Bonus Act has come fixing minimum rate payable as 81.3% of their total salary despite profit or loss incurred by the industry. C. Incentives, festivals, allowances, concessions, etc. requires a hike every now and then. Workers compare these benefits with other industries and demand them without comparing the capacity of the industry where they are working. 2. Non-financial aspects. A. Working hours, rest hours, traveling hours are source of disputes. B. More facilities like free meals, free group travel, etc. are sought every now and then. 3. Administrators' causes. A. Non-implementation of agreements, awards and other local settlements, full sprit. B. Stifling with recognition of labor unions though registered. C. Attempt to weaken existing trade unions and trying to form fake unions. D. An unhealthy working conditions. E. Lack of skill on the part of leaders' supervision. F. Disproportionate works loads, favoritism. G. Victimization, nepotism, attitude of management in recruitment, promotion, transfer, etc. H. Instead of redeployment or skill improvement, easier way of retrenchment, forced voluntary retirement schemes, C.R.S. are adopted. 4. Government and political pressures. A. Industrial unions affiliating with political unions which are in power, resulting in frequent shift of loyalty and resultant unrest. B. Politician influencing workers' group. C. Sometime unions, workers strike against mergers, acquisition, taken over, disinvestments policies, of government and private sectors. 5. Other causes of strained relations. A. Refusal to have workers' participation in the running of the industry. B. Non-adherence to laid-out standing orders, grievances, procedures. C. Refusal to have free, frank, and transparent collective bargaining. D. Sympathetic strike, a show of readership to workers of neighboring industries and conducting a token strike when they are in full strike. This may cause internal bitterness. Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. All the 4 units of industrial management have been uploaded on my channel, do watch them. Suggestions are welcomed. Hope you do well in your exams. Subscribe for more.